Thank you. Hi, everybody. Hi. I want to welcome you. I'm Amy Agigian. I'm the director of the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights here at Suffolk. And I want to welcome all of you to this celebration of Our Bodies, Ourselves 50th anniversary. It is amazing and wonderful to be able to host this event and to welcome all of you. And I want to let you know that you are being, couple of items of business before we get the party started. You are being filmed, okay? This is a historic event, and so we are capturing it on film, and there are people who are taking pictures as well. If you are somebody who just feels adamant that you should not be filmed, then you can talk to me or somebody else working here at the end of this, and we'll make sure that you're blurred out, okay? Just your picture. So I think you've all gotten food, but if you haven't, please get up and get food. There are going to be some natural kind of stopping points in the middle of this where you can take a bathroom break or go, get more food or whatever you need to do. And also, I want to ask you to just take your phones out and silence them. Okay?
Make sure.
Yes.
We could collect phones.
Okay, so there's so many people here who I know and so many I don't know, but I want to acknowledge, I want to start with some acknowledgments of some of the people who have made Our Bodies, Ourselves what it is, and who have made this event possible, okay? So the first person that I want to the first people I want to acknowledge are the founders of Our Bodies, Ourselves, who 50 years ago got an idea and then put in all the hard work and time and love and everything else to create what became Our Bodies, Ourselves. So could the founders please stand up and let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. And I want to ask for everybody who has been a contributor to the book or the organization of Our Bodies, Ourselves over the years to please stand up and we will acknowledge you, including the founders. Stand up again. Yes. Great. And then I want to, I'm going to explain this later, but everybody who has been working on Our Bodies, Ourselves today, which is a new initiative we are going to tell you more about later on. Can you stand up if you've been working on Our Bodies, Ourselves today? Yes, yes, stand. Thank you. And then I want to acknowledge our various co-sponsors and donors who have made this possible. In Suffolk University, we have a number of very generous co-sponsors. Let's see if I can remember them. We have the Health and Biomedical Law program here at Suffolk University Law School. We also have the Law and Health Clinic. Both of those are co-sponsors. We have the Moakley Center for Public Service. I think that's what it's called. Sandy, correct me if I got that wrong. Okay. The English Department, the History Department, Women and Gender Studies, the Sociology Department, the Philosophy Department, the Crime and Justice Studies Program, and also Title IX is sponsoring us. The Center for Student Diversity and Inclusion is co-sponsoring us. And if I have forgotten anybody, I apologize sincerely. I don't think I did, but there's a big list on the poster outside the door. Okay, so thank you to all of our co-sponsors here at Suffolk. Oh, how could I forget? The perhaps most important, the Dean's Office. The Office of the Dean of the College of Arts and Science and the Office of the Provost. Thank you. No, I would not forget them. Never. Never going to happen. And then we also want to thank our food donors, and the biggest one is Pipiri, who donated so much of the Middle Eastern food that we have tonight. And Trader Joe's also gave us a donation, and then we have an anonymous donor, so, of food. But they're legit, so don't worry. Okay, so I am going to introduce Judy Norsigian, who is going to give you a welcome here. And I have Judy's bio right here, so bear with me just for a second. I know. I'm not going to read the whole thing, don't worry. It's not possible. It's not possible to read, to tell you everything that, what just happened. Okay, so Judy Norsigian is somebody who many of us know and love and admire greatly. She is one of the co-founders of Our Bodies, Ourselves, and an author and editor for each of the 9 editions of the book, Our Bodies, Ourselves. She has served in many roles at the organization, including as executive director from 2001 to 2015, and she's currently the chair of the board of directors. So let's acknowledge Judy. Yes. Thank you. I'm giving the short version. That's okay.
Well, thank you, Amy, and this is really an exciting day, not just because we're recognizing the 50th anniversary of that wonderful workshop at the Women's Liberation Conference held at Emmanuel College, and Miriam Hawley, who is here, one of the founders, is one of the co-leaders of that workshop, and will tell us more about it. But also because we're going to be celebrating the launch of Our Bodies, Ourselves today, which Amy will say more about later. Many, many people, hundreds and hundreds of people wrote in saying, you know, you can't stop publishing Our Bodies, Ourselves as a print book. Well, at the moment we made that decision, we had to because there weren't the resources. But most people look for this kind of information online anyway. So having a place where the kind of information you get in Our Bodies, Ourselves you will now be able to get online is so exciting. I do want to say that the transition to a largely volunteer-driven nonprofit has gone much more smoothly than I thought it would. And I want to give a shout out to the board members. It's a terrific, smaller board, and some of them are here today. I'm going to mention them, and I want you to stand. Well, you don't have to stand, Mariya, because you're right in front of everyone. Mariya Patwa is one of our board members who is actually applied to medical school, and I'm hoping that Mariya will get in, and has done amazing work in public health, and is the treasurer. Thank goodness we have such a talented treasurer for the board. Yes, give you a hand. The other person I want to mention is Charlie Ruth Castro, who stayed here a little bit longer. She's from Colombia, a force of nature, as many in Latin America already know, and is working on so many things already that it's just beyond my, wildest dreams. Alex Spadola is not here yet, are you? I don't see you. She's walking up from Tufts Medical Center, where she is head of labor and delivery. She is a maternal fetal medicine expert, and she is a phenomenally wonderful board member as well, helping us with all the midwifery access issues we're working on right now. I do want to mention Aziza Ahmed, who's a professor at Northeastern Law School. She is actually teaching in Chicago now, so she can't be with us. But she has also been participating in wonderful ways. And then, in addition to those 4 amazing women, Miriam and I are co-founders on the current board of directors. And so the group of 6 has been working really hard. And I also want to acknowledge some of the most important volunteers right now. If you did any reading, you know that we are not doing everything we used to do, although we do have an occasional blog. And any moment, Kiki Zeldis is going to walk in the door with her partner, Susan. And she has stayed on as a consultant to manage the website and our social media. And one of the things that we've done is we've continued some of the advocacy work. And we've also continued to support some of our global partners. There are books about to be produced or just produced in France, in Quebec, for French-speaking Quebecois. And also, there's a project that's in the works in Morocco. They're doing 20 pages at a time. And this is in Arabic. In the works right now is a project that will launch hopefully in the next few months in Brazil, in Portuguese, and also in Mongolia. There may be others as well, and we recently got an interesting email from someone who wants to see the Burmese edition, which in 2003, when Janet Benchouf, someone well known to a lot of you, strapped $5,000 to her body and went into Myanmar, where it's illegal to do a book. She reached activists there who were producing a Burmese, Our Bodies, Ourselves, but we have actually never seen it. And nor would anyone dare to put this in an email either. So we're still trying to figure out if that project came to fruition and where it is. In addition to the limited technical support, which is coordinated by Ariella Shapiro, now in another country, but who's turned out to be a wonderful volunteer coordinating this work. We also have individuals who stepped up to write blogs, to participate as advisors for the Our Bodies, Ourselves Today project, and to help out in other ways. This is truly a village that's raising not a child, but all this stuff. It's everything that we've been doing and will continue to do. The midwifery advocacy work, the work around breast implant safety, the work around global commercial surrogacy, which former staff member Sally Whalen and also co-founder led so ably with Aisha Chatterjee is here. If you want to learn more about it, please talk to Sally or me. This work that is connected to not just global commercial surrogacy, but risks to young women who undergo egg provision, either for other couples or sometimes freezing their eggs for themselves. Lots of this is not actually easily available information. So I invite you to go and look not only at the display, but some of the older books on the table. Those are there for you to take if you would like. We have extra copies. There are some materials that describe some of our current advocacy work. There are cards with the website and information about social media. We are small, but we are a bit mighty, and we are going to continue doing this important work with our colleagues in other countries. And we invite you to participate in whatever ways you can, in kind, financially. Do spread the word. If Kiki were here, I would give a salute to her, because even as we have transitioned to a largely volunteer-driven organization, we still have 460,000 visitors to our website every month. So that is really a wonderful accomplishment. So Kiki, and I just want to say, the reason she is late is that there is a bad accident on the Mass Pike, and she was driving in with her partner from Western Mass. With that, I think I'm going to hand it back to you, and just thank Suffolk and thank Amy and all the students, some of whom I've met, some are in the panel, who are doing an amazing job in launching this project. And I just have nothing but immense gratitude for all of your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. I'm now going to introduce Miriam Hawley, who is also one of the founders of the board. Sorry, not founders of the board. One of the founders of Our Bodies, Ourselves, and a member of the board currently. Bear with me for a second. Miriam has been my partner in putting together this event, and it's been really fun to get to know you and work with you. So let's see. So Miriam, just to say a few words about her, in addition to being a founding member, has a contagious and inspiring commitment to living life fully. As a lifetime activist, author, and business coach, she led the first workshop at Emmanuel College in May 1969. And this is the exact anniversary of that.
Exact day.
The exact day that initiated the work that became Our Bodies, Ourselves. So she's a coach. She has the privilege of coaching global women leaders in both the profit and social profit sectors. So without further ado, Miriam Hawley.
Okay, I'm going to sit right here.
You're going to sit. Okay.
I'm going to sit. Can everybody, is this mic working? Can you hear me? Okay. So I'm going to tell you the history of Our Bodies, Ourselves in 5 minutes. and here goes. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge David de Bronkart, because this workshop is in existence in my mind because of a conversation he initiated over a year ago and said to me, 1969, he was asking about the history of Our Bodies, Ourselves. He said, 1969, aren't you going to do a 50th anniversary workshop? And he held that idea for a while until we put it into existence, so thank you, Dave. So here's my 5-minute history. 50 years ago on this very day in May 1969, I led the first workshop entitled Control of Our Bodies as part of the first feminist women's conference in Boston held at Emmanuel College. So how did this conference come to be? A group of feminists who were focused on different aspects of our empowerment had been talking for a year or more about our experiences as women. Some of us were active in other movements, especially civil rights and anti-war movements. Others were studying self-defense, were active in education, and had created journals and print articles based on our discussions. We started to pay attention to our voices, the voices of women as distinct from that of men. This was happening in small groups all over the country and was the beginning of the feminist women's movement. A friend gave me Simone de Beauvoir's Second Sex, and my eyes opened wide. So how did I, as a person raised in a family committed to social justice, begin to focus on women's health? Here's a bit of my story. I was in my 20s, married with a young child, and had moved to Boston in 1966. As I left Ann Arbor, where I had gone to college and graduate school, I had a final appointment with my OBGYN. He tried to give me a pill. When I asked, "What's in this pill?" he reached over, tapped me on the head, and said, "You don't need to worry your pretty little head." I was outraged. I left his office and arrived in Boston with my "What's in this pill" story. It fueled my personal commitment to only go to respectful medical people. At the workshop, there was a room full of women, each with her doctor's story, and a need for accurate information. At that time in history, it was rare to find a woman doctor, let alone a female OBGYN. When we ended, many women wanted to continue talking together, to hear each other's experiences. We met in each other's homes that summer and chose topics that were important to each of us. You will recognize them from the book's chapters: anatomy, birth control, sexuality, pregnancy, postpartum, violence against women, the healthcare system, and the first gay chapter, In America They Call Us Dykes. They were topics that were present ones for a group of women in their 20s, some married, some single, some with young children, some just beginning to identify as gay. While we are all well known now, at the time we began, we were a group of ordinary women continuing to learn about our health in order to care for ourselves and our families. A few of us knew each other. We set out to do a course that would include accurate, evidence-based information, women's experiences, and a political analysis of the health system. To this day, continuing to incorporate all three elements makes our work unique and powerful. We created a course which we offered in a lounge at MIT, where I, as a faculty wife, had access to space. I chuckle when I tell you that OBOS began at MIT, and we spoke out loud words like clitoris and masturbation. We mimeographed materials for each session. In time, women requested all the materials, a large pamphlet or book. We raised money, $1,500, which was a lot of money at the time. We negotiated with the New England Free Press, known for publishing radical materials. Initially, they resisted based on their assessment that this women's book was not political. I love that. Eventually, they agreed. Initially, they resisted based on their assessment that this women's book was not political. Eventually, they agreed to publish it, and the first newsprint edition of Women and Their Bodies came out in 1970 for 75 cents, which was reduced to 30 cents. As we took more ownership of our bodies, the title changed to Our Bodies Ourselves. Over 2 years, we sold 250,000 copies by word of mouth. We didn't set out to publish a book that altered the global conversation about reproductive health and sexuality for girls and women, but that's what we did. New York publishers took interest, and we needed a marketing department to get the book wider distribution. We formed a legal entity, the Boston Women's Health Book Collective, and wrote a revolutionary contract with the help of our lawyer, Kathy Allen, that allowed clinics to buy the book at 30% of its cost. I declared at the time we were going to sell 1 million copies, and people laughed at me. I said, you can laugh, and every woman has a body and needs the information in our book. Here we are today, having sold plus over 5 million copies and translated or adapted Our Bodies Ourselves into 31 languages. The English language edition is... The English language edition is still in print, and we are excited by the project of the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights here at Suffolk to develop feminist health information for the web. We are excited by all of you being here today, and especially by younger women and women from all over the world who are interested in this history as they go forth to continue to advocate for accurate reproductive health and sexuality information for girls and women worldwide and the vitality of a feminist health movement. Go for it, Norma.
Thank you, Miriam. Norma, I want to introduce you before you start. Norma is another co-founder of the Our Bodies Ourselves organization and co-author of most editions of Our Bodies Ourselves. She's a former Our Bodies Ourselves senior staff member and was the organization's first director of international programs. From 2013 to 2018, Norma served as an officer on Our Bodies Ourselves' board of directors. Without further ado, I hand it over to Norma Swenson.
I'm thinking I'd like to go to the podium and see how long I can stand. Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. This might help keep me to my 5 minutes. I think it's tremendously exciting that we were able to make this happen on this day. And I want to congratulate Miriam on her persistence and clinging to her vision, even if it seemed like so many obstacles were going to be in the way of this happening. And I salute her. I want to salute her especially. But first, I want to salute Amy herself and Suffolk University, because I think this is the most logical, perfect home for the work that we want to continue. It couldn't be better. And I love the prominence of human rights in the title, because we've always been about human rights, but we didn't do it in any formal way. And then a whole literature appeared on health and human rights, and I would like to see us pursue more aggressively the connections, and I know Amy will help us to do that. So thank you to Amy, and thank you to Suffolk. My next tribute goes to Sally Whalen, and if you won't stand up, at least wave your hand. And to Aisha Chatterjee, who's not here, but who were the dynamic duo that kept the most remarkable global program afloat for such a long time. it's true that I was in on the creation, but there was a point after which there was no question that you guys were running it, you were shaping it, and you were making us all very, very proud. It's an extraordinary achievement. But the next tribute goes, of course, to Miriam herself, because Miriam was really my introduction to our bodies ourselves. And we have little stories, and I don't have time to tell them all, but I spent many nights when I didn't drive trundling to Cambridge from Newton on the subway, and anybody who's done that knows that they were never meant to meet. And so I just kept doing it until Paula, who's sitting here, rescued me, and she couldn't understand why I never offered her a ride and couldn't believe that I told her I didn't know how to drive. So, but I'm showing my age, and I am the oldest one of us. My next birthday, I'll be 88 years old. And my ambition is to be the Florence Luscombe of the second wave of feminism. But I have a lot of competition, so. But my tribute to Miriam also includes the fact that I believe she was one of the deciding persuaders that I should become a part of this group. Knowing that I was the oldest and thinking I might have something to offer, I think you're responsible for my getting voted onto the board. That's what I think. I don't know if that's true, but that's my memory.
I'll be glad to take it.
Okay.
I'm proud of that vote.
What?
I'm proud of that vote.
Yes, and I'm so thrilled that you had the wisdom to include me. And I wanted to also, in addition to acknowledging the contribution that our guest has made, where is he sitting now, that piece that was on the WBUR blog, how many of you have seen it? I know the Obos people have seen it. It's worth looking at. It's a wonderful story. I don't know how much is Dave's writing, and I don't know how much is Miriam's, and it doesn't matter, but it's a really fine piece, and it's online, and you can bounce it around so that if people don't know there's been a 50th, or the ones who didn't show or couldn't get in, they can read it. It's a terrific piece. So that's this week's news. And I want to congratulate Miriam and Dave for making that happen. And then I'm going to tell one other little story about Miriam. When she was getting close to the end of seeing what this book was turning out to be, and those of you who don't realize this have to know that at that period, in the late 60s and early 70s, there was a necklace of alternative bookstores all across this country. They knew that they couldn't get their political material into mainstream bookstores, so they created their own. And that was an important outlet for our bodies ourselves. So everywhere, I can't remember the number of thousand copies that we sold of that newsprint. And when Miriam saw that we had the opportunity to decide how to get this book out to as many women as possible, we knew that the alternative bookstore network was not going to do it. And she pushed us to say, we're going to go with a commercial publisher. And that's when the publishing war began between Simon & Schuster and Random House that ended us up in Random House's arms. And without that... Simon & Schuster's arms. And without that, I don't think we would ever have been on the bestseller list. And without being on the bestseller list, I don't think we would ever have gotten the foreign editions that we got as a consequence, because when a foreign publisher sees that something's on the bestseller list, they think, well, we'll quickly rush out a translation and make some money on this. So in the summer of 1977, Judy, Norsigian, and I took our maiden voyage to Europe. Now, can you believe that we had gotten to be Judy wasn't old, she's 17 years younger than I am, but you wouldn't believe that she hadn't been to Europe, and neither had I, so we started out. And we went to, I think, 9 countries, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 9? 10. because our colleague, Esther Rome, was pregnant and we had to be back for the birth. So we raced from country to country, and the news people began to follow us around and took extraordinary pictures. I wish I had them now, making us look like we were natives of the place where we were. But anyway, we did that, and we began to set terms. And one of the interesting pieces of work that I think you can find on the website, but Sally sent to me, was how we changed the rules over the years. So as you look around at these global editions, each one has a unique history, but we decided that the women in the countries had, in the same way that we say women are the best experts on themselves, that those women were the ones to decide what could they use, what they couldn't use, and how to negotiate with publishers, how to raise money, how to put up with the censorship and the dangerous, sometimes, conditions under which they wanted to publish the books. A lot of that is on the website, and if you haven't been to our website, I urge you to go and look at it. So, knowing that my time is limited, let's talk about the numbers. We heard some of them earlier, but these have been assembled, and they're, I think, also on the website, but if not, I'll just read them quickly. The number of languages into which our bodies ourselves has been translated and adapted. That's 30. New requests. Countries include Azerbaijan, Canada, Croatia, Czech Republic, Republic of Georgia, Hungary, Lithuania, Malaysia, Mongolia, Myanmar, Philippines, Uganda, and the United States for Somali, Native Alaskan, and Farsi, Iranian communities, as well as Vietnam. And that's only the most recent ones. And if you go to the website, you will see that the Canadian women have published their new French edition and are celebrating the publication this month. So, who was I? I was fascinated with the idea that Europe was not only alive and well, they were organized and mobilized to pull in the needs of women from developing countries. So we linked up with a number of organizations who were doing that kind of work. And I think you cannot understand the success of how this worked without taking into account the fact that the UN women had, in their wisdom, decided that there needed to be a UN Decade of Women. And that was initiated in 1975, and Judy and I were in Houston for the inaugural portion of that decade, and I attended almost all of the major conferences associated with that decade. And got to know women from all over the world.
Norma?
Yes, I've run out of time.
You've run out of time, honey.
So I'm just going to read a final statement from Miriam Nancy Hawley, which says, and this is her response on universality. We found that so much of what women need is universal despite the cultural differences around the world. 50 years ago, girls and women in the United States often lacked the knowledge to discuss their anatomy. They'd just say, you know, down there. When Sarah and I went to China, she read the section on masturbating with a cucumber to the Chinese women, and it was just a marvelous evening. I will never forget it. So that shows you how far the world has come, because the Chinese women consulted all the Americans they knew to say, give us the list of 10 books that every woman should read before the Hairu conference, and Our Bodies Ourselves was at the top of every list. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Norma. I would like next to introduce Mariya Patwa, who is a public health practitioner and researcher serving as the current treasurer of the board of directors of Our Bodies Ourselves. As an undergraduate student at Wellesley College, she partook in the Madeleine Albright Institute for Global Affairs and conducted research at the Wellesley Centers for Women. Last May, she completed a public health degree focusing on international health systems and maternal and child health at Johns Hopkins University. During this program, she worked as a graduate student research assistant based in Johannesburg to promote the integration of safer conception services into routine care for people affected by HIV. So, Mariya, please.
Thank you all. Can you hear me? Is this okay? Perfect. Thank you all for coming and joining us today. I guess my biggest thanks first goes to Judy and Miriam, because I am so excited to be a part of the history and legacy of this organization and be a part of kind of the today efforts and tomorrow efforts that we're moving forward on. One of the things I keep telling my family is that Judy and Miriam are like encyclopedias. They know everything, and they just, I mean, I've learned so much in just the several months that I've been a part of the board, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it. So I'll tell you a little bit more about my story, where I've been, why I'm here, and what I hope I can do. And so as Amy shared, I went to Wellesley College undergrad, and I was a very eager pre-med student, chemistry major, and then Wellesley hit me. And I took a class with Susan Reverby in the Gender Studies department, and I took an American healthcare history where I read the book, The Making of Our Bodies Ourselves, I believe by Kathy Davis. And I think from there I started questioning a lot more about what I understood about health, what I understood about women's health specifically, femme health, gender identity and sexuality, and reproductive rights. And a course that I took with a woman named Dulce Natividad from the Philippines was a seminar focused on colonial medicine and public health, which really had me thinking about, you know, what are our health systems built on? What is the history and legacy that we need to be critical of, and what we need to be thinking about constantly when we engage in public health, when we engage in medicine, advocacy, both within the U.S. and elsewhere. So that set me off on a path of applying to the Madeleine Albright Institute for Global Affairs. And I was assigned to a project to engage on the Millennium Development Goal of ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all. And so that the questions that we asked really had me tackling the kind of key problems about health systems development and what that framework and history is built around, and inspired me to engage more in global health, and led me to Johns Hopkins to do a degree in international health systems and development. And with that, I was able to work and travel both in developing countries, and including South Africa and Guatemala, and come back and realize that it's really applicable here. And so right now I'm working with the Cambridge Health Alliance. I work for two research teams. One is focused on the Children's Health Initiative, which really is working on enhancing systems of care for families. And you know, we work with family navigators and family advocates within the healthcare system to better integrate behavioral healthcare services for children and their parents, and as well as working with the Biobehavioral Family Studies Lab, which is engaged on maternal and infant stress and attachment behaviors. And this is all to say that I really like to engage on and think about the way that we improve and strengthen healthcare systems, both to support and improve women's health, but also to kind of think more globally and at the household level, which is truly where I think healthcare begins. And you know, it's the family units, the community units, the health systems and health policies that we have to be advocating for from all ends and corners. And I'm really excited to be a part of Our Bodies Ourselves right now, where we're really promoting the work that other organizations are doing, carrying on that legacy, and supporting organizations that are doing the good work in their own communities.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Mariya. So I'm going to talk for a few minutes now. I'm going to talk a little bit about my own Our Bodies, Ourselves story. And I'm going to introduce you to the new initiative that we have been working on at Suffolk that people have been referring to, that we're calling Our Bodies, Ourselves Today. And I am going to just say a little bit about myself because a lot of you don't know me or don't know why we're doing this here at Suffolk. And so hopefully when you know a little bit about me, you'll see what the connection is. I was raised by a very feminist mother, okay? Very feminist. And she kept a copy of not only Ms. Magazine, but also Our Bodies, Ourselves in the bathroom, okay? So me and my sister, starting at age of about 8 or 9, would go in there and look at Our Bodies, Ourselves. And it was intoxicating. It was thrilling. It was frightening sometimes because as a prepubescent, girl, it was like, really? We're going to do all that? It's kind of, looking at the pictures but mostly it was so kind of exciting and just made us feel good about being girls and that we were going to grow up and be women and, it all just was a very kind of positive experience. And, we started kind of having connections in various ways with Our Bodies, Ourselves. A very good friend of my mom's actually moved out here and became a contributor to one issue, and we saw her name in the book. This is Becky Sarah. And we were so proud, all of us out in Palo Alto, California, where she had come from. I mean, at that point, we were just over the moon that we know somebody who's listed in Our Bodies, Ourselves. It was just like such a thrill. Through my mom, me and my sister were involved in all kinds of feminist, things just as kids. But so that I think really kind of set the stage for the work that I would do later on. But another thing that really shaped my kind of passion for and deep commitment to women's health and sexuality is that my mom got sick with cancer when I was only 13, and she died when I was 14. And she was 38. And going through that and just seeing, from a child's perspective, but seeing kind of her relationship with the healthcare system and kind of how, everybody was kind of trying to make sense of it or trying not to talk about it or just the whole experience of that really, obviously affected me in many ways, but really shaped my trajectory. And I do feel like I want to just acknowledge her. Her name was Judy Agigian. And I feel like, she's kind of here in spirit tonight. So, big hand to Mom. I went to UC Santa Cruz. I became a women's studies major. I wrote about midwifery in one of my classes, and I used Our Bodies, Ourselves. I went to Brandeis for my PhD, where I studied with Irv Zola. Can we acknowledge Irv Zola? An amazing feminist man who basically invented the field of disability studies and who is the late husband of Judy Norsigian. Really helped me, really taught me a lot. I worked at Our Bodies, Ourselves when I was a grad student. Just kind of got a little office job there for a year or two. Just kind of opened the mail and hung out. I was in heaven. I was like, I'm in Our Bodies, Ourselves. I was starstruck, even though I was so happy. I was getting to meet people and see they're real people, not, just icons. But then when I finished my PhD, I came to Suffolk. I teach feminist classes. I inherited a class called Women in Health, from Alexandra Todd, who was my department chair at the time, who many of you know, she was also a contributor. Get a hand for Alexandra. I still teach women in health, teach women in contemporary society, law, health, and human rights, sex and society. I just taught that. I think we got a couple of people here who were in that class. Anyway, I founded the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights in 2003, really in part because of the inspiration of working at Our Bodies Ourselves in 1995 when the whole conference was going on in Beijing. In Beijing, and just so much energy about women's health and sexuality, women's rights, and the international language of health and human rights. For women, it was just so exciting and powerful. I'm just going to mention the three, what I consider the three, thank you, maybe I'll skip that. I'll just skip that part. We've done some stuff, okay? We've done some stuff at the center. Well, I'll just mention one. Okay, we had a Master of Arts in Women's Health program for not quite 10 years. But this was also a time that we worked very closely with Our Bodies Ourselves, and Judy in particular was on our advisory board, and she taught our women's health advocacy class, so our students were very lucky to have that. And that program put about 100 young and not so young women, graduated that many women who are now out in the world doing awesome, amazing work on women's health and human rights and sexuality. So we're very proud of that. Okay, so there's a long connection. I've had a long connection with Our Bodies Ourselves, I think like so many women. So when they were going through changes last year, it seemed like a really great opportunity to think about how the center might, or whether the center might be able to get involved and try and, help keep some of its mission going. Obviously, it's still going strong in very many ways, but, with the changes happening, we wanted to see if there was something we could do. And basically through a lot of conversations, wide-ranging conversations, with Our Bodies Ourselves people and with other people, we came up with what we are now calling Our Bodies Ourselves Today. And I'm going to just take the next 2 minutes to tell you about that. In a nutshell, Our Bodies Ourselves, as most of you all know, it originally addressed the problem of a lack of access to information about women's health and sexuality, right? Among other problems with the medical system. Today's problem is that we have too much information about women's health and sexuality. And much of it is terrible, right? Mm-hmm. It is more scattered. It is unverified, it's inaccurate, it's biased, it is profit-driven, it looks at women's health too narrowly, it has an agenda that is not a feminist one, right? Mm-hmm. And women who fall outside the most privileged strata by virtue of their race, their class, their immigration status, sexuality, size, whatever, are often least able to access the relevant and trustworthy information about their health that they need. So we are designing Our Bodies Ourselves Today to address the current problem and to basically we're using a curation model where we're not creating new information unless we really need to, then we will. But we're drawing together the information that is already out there that is the most useful and relevant to women's lives and the most contextualized, and vetting it and curating it by experts who are diverse themselves. So we're not, for example, one of the sections is heart health. We're not just having cardiologists on the heart health area, the heart health panel. We are having people with all different perspectives, including especially women as women. Women who have experienced what it's like to live their lives with this particular, with a heart, right? And dealing with, I mean, that's just one example. Okay, so we are, okay, I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit here. We are engaging a new generation of feminists, feminist activists and scholars, practitioners, and policymakers. We want this to be relevant to, these generations as well, to all generations, while we continue to engage with and build on the existing and amazing feminist health networks and their ongoing work. So we're not reinventing the wheel, but we are building networks. We're drawing on networks. We're building networks. We're drawing together people who have skin in the game. It's a really scary time right now in this country and on the planet. And this is space we can still take up, and we want to take up the space. And we want to help bring together something that not only forwards women's health, but also forwards a movement for justice, for health justice, and human rights. So I want to close by encouraging you to participate, okay? This is not something that is just, even though it's housed and it's kind of centered here, if you will, at Suffolk, this is something that can really only, Our Bodies, Ourselves Today can really only succeed if there are hundreds of people contributing. And we're not only a source of going to be a source of information, but we're going to be a community. So one of the most important ways that you can be part of this community is to contribute something. And I actually have what I think is a fun, cool thing, which is completely optional. But if you want to support Our Bodies, Ourselves Today, you can text. You can get out your phone and you can text the letters OBOST to the numbers 41444. You see what I mean? I know you're looking at me like, what is she talking about? It's a way that you can donate through your phone. So, okay, the number is 41444. And all you do when you type in that number is you text OBOST, which is Our Bodies, Ourselves Today. Yeah. Thank you. I thought that was pretty cool.
It's very cool.
Okay, so we have been working with an amazing group of young women to develop Our Bodies, Ourselves Today. You clapped for them earlier, and two of them are on the stage right now. And so without, they're fantastic. So it's so great to see their passion and their brilliance and their dedication to carrying on the legacy of Our Bodies, Ourselves, and making it their own. So without further ado, I want to introduce Queen-Cheyenne Wade, who is a junior here at Suffolk and who is an activist and who's going to talk to you for several minutes.
Several minutes. Hi, everybody. Say again, my name is Queen-Cheyenne, and I have been working in the center for my entire time here at Suffolk, so this is definitely like a really special initiative and like a really special place for me in terms of what I've been doing at Suffolk. I kind of first got involved with Our Bodies, Ourselves Today in the fall semester when, I hope everybody can hear me. I hope. Oh, that's better? Okay. So I started working on this initiative with Amy in the fall of 2018 when she invited me to be an intern. I do a lot of work in the center, and I'm always really interested in having these conversations with Amy. So she was like, just come in, let's do something fun. So that was really exciting. It has been really, really amazing doing this work and kind of learning not just from Amy, but from Jacqueline Friedman, from Melanie Pryor, and from so many of our other amazing interns that have just been working together. We've been trying to do outreach at our school, which, as you know, with all the co-sponsors that we've seen, so many organizations and clubs have just been so interested in this work and being a part of it and seeing how intersectional that this work can be. And so this isn't just, you know, a singular type of women's issue. This is a human rights issue. And so that is something that I find really beautiful that so many people in the Suffolk community understand. What really drew me to this project was accessibility over anything else. I think for myself, just growing up as a young woman, there are so many different health databases and health clinics and all these different places that can give you certain information, but you're not always sure who you can trust and where you can trust this information. And so I think having accessible and really relatable kind of database that is by women for women that we trust and we know, I think is something that will really help a lot of not even just women, but just people around the world who are having questions and need answers. And for myself even, I know that, you know, there have been so many questions about my body, my sexuality, my health that I didn't have the answers to, and the people in my community didn't have the answers to. And, you know, I am young, you know, but, you know, typing on the computer wasn't something that I could do when I was 12 or 13 to look up some of these questions. You know, a lot of these are things that young girls are thinking about at the ages of 12, 13. What's happening to my body? What is this all starting to become? Who am I? And I think a lot of those questions are really beautifully put in Our Bodies, Ourselves, the book, and that can transfer so beautifully and then to be continued in Our Bodies, Ourselves today. So thank you. I'm really excited.
Thank you, Queen-Cheyenne. And next, I would like to introduce another one of our wonderful student activists, Sabrina Dias, who is graduating. Sad to see her go, but yay. Sabrina is going to law school and in the fall, and she's going to speak to you. She's going to be the last panelist to speak to you before we do some breakout sessions. So thank you, Sabrina.
So, as you know, can everybody hear me? My name is Sabrina Dias, and I'm a senior here. I'm actually going to be pursuing law school in the fall, where I'll be pursuing civil rights law to advocate for things like women's reproductive health. I've been working at the center since I was a freshman, so I've been with Amy for quite a long time now. Mm-hmm. And so you can only imagine my excitement when I heard that we were going to be hosting the Our Bodies, Ourselves 50th anniversary event. Now, I was actually reading Miriam's article earlier today, the one that we were talking about, and she said something that really resonated with me, which was that no victories are permanent. Now, in women's health and women's reproductive health specifically, it's always an uphill battle, right? There's always something going on, which is actually why Our Bodies, Ourselves today becomes even more important, because these are still issues that we have seen and continue to see that people still need answers to. You know, women still struggle today with stigma surrounding women's sexuality and even have a hard time finding comprehensive and factually based women's health information. So we're trying to create a space, especially focusing on this third wave of feminism and its focus on inclusivity. We want to find a place that is inclusive and accessible. Now, for me, that means that this is going to be a database for all women, women of color, trans women, anybody who needs assistance in women's health information. And we want this to be accessible in the sense that it's online. If you're a 12-year-old girl on one side of the world or an older woman on the other, you can all have access to comprehensive and accurate information. And we want this written in language that's easy for everyone to understand. So whether, again, you speak a variety of languages or you may need things written in layman terms that you can't find elsewhere, Our Bodies, Ourselves today creates that space. And so basically, I want to thank the founders for really even creating this opportunity for me to speak, for us all to be here today, and the movement in itself. So thank you all, and
I'm verklempt. So now Miriam is going to introduce the idea or the breakout sessions that we're going to have. So Miriam, please.
Well, we've talked enough, and we want to hear from you. And you all are here, are active. Many of you I know, and are activists, and have lots to share with one another and with us. So what we want to do is have people break into groups of, 4 or 5, doesn't matter exactly how many, but just easily group with the people around you. And we're going to actually have 2 breakout sessions. The topic of the first breakout session is what your experience has been with our bodies ourselves, or with health information, from the past up to the present. And if those of you who are sitting in the audience have not had any experience, what you know about our bodies ourselves, or what you know, or what issues have come up in your life around health and well-being. And we're going to have people talk with one another for about 10 minutes, then we'll come back and invite you to share, have somebody be a scribe and just jot down 1 or 2 things that were important in the conversation in your group that you can share with all the rest of us. So it's a way of engaging in a conversation of the whole in parts that make it manageable for us to do it. So, and we will collect the paper afterwards, and some of the students will put it together. So if you want and leave your email, then we can send you the information about what the group has been talking about. So that's the whole purpose of it. So I'm going to ring my little meditation bell for us to start and get grouped up. And when we're at 5 minutes, I'll ring the bell again just to give you a time check, and then we'll come back together after 10 minutes and then share with one another as a group as a whole. So circle up with 4 or 5 people.